2026 meeting of the City of Charleston Committee on Traffic and Transportation. Thank everybody for coming, and let's just begin, if you don't mind, with a moment of silence, please. All right, thank you very much. All right, let's get right after it. First thing on our agenda is approval of minutes from January 27th, 2026. I've got a motion and a second. Or any discussion, additions, deletions, corrections? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. We have a number of presentations today. Let's start off. The first one is project update on the Ashley River crossing. Mayor, Mr. Most, who I see here, and guests.
I'm gonna hand it over to the experts here, just to give a brief update. I believe we have some drone footage that was shot today, of the progress. So Edmund, Mr. Most, I will turn it over to you.
And please, I know that you've been here a long time, as have I, but there's a few new members of this committee. So please introduce yourself as you begin your presentation, if you don't mind.
Sure. Good afternoon. My name is Edmund Most. I'm a Deputy Director of Parks Department, and I manage the Capital Projects Group for the city. With me here is Michael Darby with HDR. He's the lead consultant on the Ashley River Crossing Bridge and has a wealth of history with the project even before the city started working on this as well too. And just one correction, the drone footage, Mayor, is actually from December. It's not, they couldn't fly it today because of the wind. So I misspoke there. I apologize. I just wanted to give a very, very brief update, and then I was going to hand it over to Michael Darby. We are on track. You see a lot of physical work going out there right now. We're going to get ready to see a lot more physical work in the river span itself. This is the more difficult stuff. The girders that go across the river span, as well as the movable span, which is the most complicated thing. We are still on track for a completion in midsummer of 2027. And with that, I want to hand it over to Michael, who will give a little bit more information in the slideshow.
All right, thank y'all. So yes, construction is about 40% complete on the project. The west side boardwalk, as you've probably seen out there, 1,800 feet of that has been constructed, which includes, some of those stats right there: 96 piles, 3,600 feet of beams, and placed individually 450 4-foot long boardwalk treads. Across the river, they've constructed 17 drilled shafts that have come up out of the water, and now they're building columns. So they've got 11 of the 12 columns constructed. 3 out of the 12 concrete caps. So you see that bottom picture, you can kind of see that thing on top of the column. That's the cap. So those are what the girders will sit on. And then they've placed 2,500 cubic yards of concrete, which is about 250 truckloads of concrete have been brought out there. So next up here, we've got a drone video. I'm not sure how to play this thing. All right, here we go. Yeah, y'all able to hit play on that? So again, this was flown in December. Big moment. Oh. Well, if it's not going to run, it's a massive file. So yeah, we'll just skip on to the next slide there. It just flies along the alignment of the boardwalk and across the river, and you kind of see the columns in the water. And we fly it about once every 3 months just to get a progress update on it. So complete the column construction early next month, the caps early April, and at that point, all the girders are being precast starting in early March, with the initial placement of girders, 140-foot long girders, starting in May. So you'll start to see that bridge really starting to come together across the water, and then the pivot pier where the movable span will set. That'll be starting in April, and they're already working off-site on the false floor for the pivot pier construction. So that's going on off-site, and they'll haul all that in, set it in place, and then you'll start to see concrete coming up out of the ground there. From a design perspective, the East Marsh, we've been reviewing plans there. We'll be receiving a 95% set of plans in early March with final approvals anticipated by the end of May on that one. And then the Lockwood ramp realignment, we just got that under contract. Anticipate submittals going March through June, and then the permitting process take a little bit longer and ultimately get the DOT encroachment permit by this December. So with that.
Anybody on the committee have any questions? I know that Councilmember Brady is online. Any questions from the committee? On the Lockwood side, are you all coordinating with SCDOT on that, whatever we call that, the curve right there, and how that's all gonna look?
We are. So we've coordinated with them, and we'll involve them throughout the process on the review. So they're up to speed and commenting on it from the 30% plan level on through, so that there's no surprises when we submit the encroachment permit to them.
And is the plan to give that space a little diet and pinch it in some?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, tighten that curve up a good bit down to I think it's about a 20-mile-per-hour curve as opposed to what's there right now, which is just free flowing.
Daytona 500 is what's there right now. I mean, it's fast.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thanks. Any other questions? When you get a new video, share it with us, please. It's really cool, those videos. Any other questions? All right, thank you all very much for coming. Thanks for your update. Keep in touch. Let us know how we're doing.
Sorry about the video.
That's all right. Oh, wait.
Oh, here we go.
There it is.
All right.
Here we go.
A little bit of glitching going on, but that's kind of going down Albemarle right there, and then it'll turn.
And this has not been taken with someone on an e-bike. This is somebody going slower. Is this just coming up the approach?
Yeah, so that's the lay down yard,
Okay.
135 Folly.
Right.
Turn down the alignment.
There we go. Someone asked me the other day, is there going to be guardrails? I'm like, no, you're just going to have to ride it like that.
Just stay toward the center.
Right. Cool.
So yeah, so right there next to the fender system, those four columns that are coming up right there is where the pivot pier will set. So that's really the end of all the construction that's occurred out there so far. So,
Gotcha.
great.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank y'all.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Edmund. Very much. Update. Mayor Cogswell, there are some things to report.
Sure. So as you all are well aware, the county has been hard at work through a pretty exhaustive public engagement process. I think they learned a lot from the last go around on the transportation sales tax initiative and have been, I think, incredibly collaborative this go around and committed to public engagement. And what has resulted here is a list of priority projects as well as a breakdown on how the balance of approximately $4.25 billion in future funding would be spent in the event that voters in November decide to extend the existing half-cent sales tax for another 20 years. And while this committee and council as a whole did a lot of homework in coming up with our priority list, I'm proud to say the overwhelming majority of those were included in this initiative, perhaps not fully funded in every aspect, but there was a lot of compromise and give and take going on between the municipalities, with the county. And I'll just have to say that I'm pretty proud as an elected official, and I think you all should be as well, just the spirit of regional collaboration that occurred to get us to where we are right now. Again, it's not a perfect list. I would like to have a few more things on there, a few more dollars here and there, but in the spirit of compromise, and I think that's something that a lot of folks have forgotten to do in politics these days, compromise. We've come to, I think, something that is a great path forward. So what the county has done is, I believe last week, or they voted to approve, Thursday of last week, they voted to approve this breakdown to send it out to the public for a 30-day review period, and have the public weigh in on the list of projects, the percentages allocated towards things like public transit, Greenbelt, et cetera, and to get kind of one last round of public thoughts prior to locking the list in. And so from where I sit, this, I think, represents, as I said earlier, a regional approach, a collective effort, and I think it is something that we should not only support, but wholeheartedly support, because this is our major funding source for the next 20 years. If you want to address traffic, if you want to have money for Greenbelt, if you want to have money for public transit, this is the way to go. And again, this is something that, I'm just saying this for the record, you all are aware of this. This is something that you, as residents, businesses, have been paying for the past 20 years. This is a continuation, and it is our primary funding source for these types of efforts. We will not be able to do this list of projects without it, not even close. So I encourage people and members of this committee and members of council, advocacy agents, and the like, to really study this. And as I say, if you can agree with more than 50% of it, I ask that you not only vote for it, but you encourage others to do so. It is that important to our region's future. So happy to answer any questions. I can't really speak to all the nuances and details on how the county got to where they got to. But I can just, again, stress that they have been very transparent and open with the municipalities throughout this process, and I think the general public as well.
Okay, any questions of the mayor, any comments from any member of this committee? Couple talking points I think that are really important as your constituency, your friends, your neighbors, anybody you run into asks about this. One is that, and sometimes I forget to emphasize this, this is a continuation of an existing half-cent sales tax that was voted on in 2004. So it's not a new tax, it's continuation one. The other is, and the county's done a good job of explaining this, two things. That number of 4.25 billion is a projected number. It's not set in stone by any stretch of the imagination, but it also represents a number that allows us to leverage against other financial opportunities. And for the two half-cent sales taxes that have been in place since 2004, then 2016, we've been able to leverage an additional about 22 to 25% of the total amount of dollars collected for projects with other grants and other financial opportunities from other sources. So it's not only needed, it's just seed money for other opportunities. So we can't live without it. I do think the county's done a good job of sort of carving up that pie in a way that makes sense regionally. And the other thing that I would say is there are leaders from outside of Charleston County who are very much in favor of this because people from Berkeley and Dorchester County travel in, across, and through Charleston County every single day, in hundreds of thousands of them, and they see the opportunity for their quality of life to be improved as we move through this process. So please get out there, talk it up, get your people to vote for it. Let's get this thing passed.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yeah, please.
great points. I think it is important to, again, reemphasize that this was something that has been paid. It's not a new tax. You mentioned people from Dorchester County, Berkeley County. One other important point to talking point is that 50% of these funds, approximately 50% of these funds are paid for by people that don't live here, either tourists that are visiting, paying sales tax, or people that are commuting into Charleston County from Berkeley County on Daniel. But in other areas.
It's Daniel
Right.
Island.
I have to pick on Councilman Gregg, but I think that is an important fact to know, and it is a regional approach. One final point I do want to throw out there is that there's often been criticism of the county from the previous half-cent sales tax and the delay in projects getting done and completed. And while I certainly understand those frustrations and complaints, I do think it is very important for the public to know that the county has received a clean audit on where all of those expenditures went. So it's not like there was a misappropriation of funds or irresponsible spending on their part. All of the funds have been accounted for. The reason why there have been significant delays, and I think this is important to point out, is that the county decided several years ago to not bond, to not borrow money to do these projects. They wanted to do pay-as-you-go. They felt, frankly, that that was a much more fiscally responsible way of approaching these infrastructure projects. And so they made a conscious decision to not borrow the money, go into debt, and do them on a faster timeline. So in hindsight, we can all agree that because construction costs have gone up rapidly during that time period and interest rates were at an historic low, hindsight's 2020, they should have borrowed money. But to play Monday morning quarterback there, I think is a little unfair to the county when in actuality, they were trying to be conservative and fiscally responsible in that approach. So I think it's an important point to talk to people that have mistrust or frustration with the county on how they might handle these funds. I do think that a lot of those criticisms and complaints, once you understand all the facts, are unfounded. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I think just to add on to that, Mayor, if I might, I mean, that's how they structured 2016. It was a pay-go referendum. If you look at this pie chart, you see the bottom left, 6.68. That's a slice of the pie for debt service. That's front-end loading for projects that they otherwise couldn't have done through the 2016 referendum. So that 6.68 will translate into much more bang for your buck on the dollars if you get things designed and going earlier than waiting till you collect it 20 years from now. So all good points. All right, anybody? Yes, sir.
Just one quick comment wants to add to that. And I do get we get a lot of complaints on Johns Island, Mr. Chairman and Mayor, about the Main Road 17 project. And that's why it took so long, was because of the pay as you go. But it's happening. And the other thing is, when people understand that all of, or at least 90% of those road projects specifically, are state-owned roads and the state does not have the money to fund them, that's a key starting out point for people to understand. It's not that the county is trying to just raise taxes because they are not taking care of county roads. No, those are state roads and the state doesn't have the money. And they've admitted it. They're working on it at the legislature. They're doing a modernization commission to try to find solutions to that problem. But so when the mayor says and the chairman says that if this doesn't pass, there's no funding, it's because there is no funding. It's not the county's normal job to do this. They're trying to find a creative way to fund what the state can't fund right now.
Thank you. Good point. And if you haven't gone out towards Johns Island down 17, that project is moving. I mean, in a big way. So that's probably the biggest project that's going to get done with half-cent sales tax money ever. And it's going. So, all right. We're in a good place, right? We'll see how this goes. Was it 30-day public comment period now? And then it'll come back to county council to draft up the referendum, and they should have actually a referendum put together by May. Is that what we're thinking? Okay, by May. All right. Anything else on the TST before we move on? All right, thank you very much. Next, our favorite, discussion and consideration. We're taking a big step here. Our proposed amendments to the e-bike ordinance. I just want to state on the record before we begin, we don't have an e-bike ordinance. So these aren't proposed amendments. This will actually be an e-bike ordinance, if we get that far. All right, I see Mr. Rimlin is here. Is there anybody else? I know Ms. Copeland is here, but I guess Steve, we'll hand it off to you on the front end, and then we'll get this conversation going. Please. Y'all will remember at our last meeting, we did ask Mr. Rumlin and team to bring us back a proposed framework for an ordinance, which he has done. He's put a number of things in it. I don't think it's in its final and complete form, but we'll hear from him. Go ahead, please.
One of the biggest things was coming up with a definition for an e-bike, and we took that out of the state code, which is 56.110, subsection 29. Basically, it's a bicycle with a helper motor that has pedals, and its maximum is 750 watts or 1 horsepower with a maximum speed of 20 miles an hour, measured by traveling on a flat road with a person who weighs 170 pounds. So basically what we did, consistent with what you had asked, is add e-bikes into our already existing bicycle ordinance. Traffic laws apply to e-bikes. So if you're on an e-bike on the road, you have to obey traffic signals, ride on the correct side of the road, etc. There was a whole bunch of stuff about parking bikes in here. We added e-bikes to the parking provisions that we have. We also had a section about abandoned bicycles, and we added e-bikes onto that. And then I think the crux of this was the debate over sidewalks and shared use paths. Currently, we have no person shall ride or operate an e-bike, rickshaw, pedicab, or similar device upon any sidewalk or shared use path in the city. So that would be a prohibition on e-bikes on either of those sidewalks or shared use paths. And then again, we have a section on bicycles. Bicycles can't ride upon sidewalks, but there are a number of exceptions for children and shared use paths, and where the road is more than 35 miles per hour, and you have to yield to pedestrians on the shared use paths. And then, of course, sidewalks are still prohibited. We put helmets in here. No person under the age of 21 shall operate or ride a e-bike unless they wear a protective helmet. Obviously, there are some challenges to that. One issue would be the bike share, where there aren't helmets. You have to bring your own helmet.
I mean, you have to do it to all bikes. I mean, you couldn't just say e-bikes, right? Either it's gonna be all bikes or none.
Right. And then we updated our moped ordinance with a definition for a moped out of the state code, which updates our current definition and makes it clear what is and is not a moped. And that seems to be some of the concern, is that what people are talking about e-bikes are actually maybe mopeds or motorcycles.
Well, I have a question about that. If we get into that sort of comparing, contrasting definitions, is there any gap between 750 watts and 1 horsepower? Once you go past 750 and 1 horsepower, are you into the moped? And then a whole different set of regulations, including state regulations?
Correct. So above 750, you're a moped now.
And then if you're a moped, you have to be registered, licensed. Is that right or not?
Right. Register and license. And then if you go beyond that to a motorcycle, it's license, registration, and insurance.
All right, Councilmember Gregg.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rumlin.
Just a quick question. So on the mopeds, I mean, in the ordinance, it says no person shall operate a moped at speeds in excess of 25 miles an hour. And so clearly we're seeing these, whatever these are, whether they're e-bikes or mopeds, they're all operating at more than 25 miles an hour. Because you can go 25 miles an hour and they're passing you or they're gaining on you. So, I mean, by that definition, our police have the ability to ticket what's in the existing code right now, correct?
So our ordinance currently says 25 miles an hour. The state law has 35. So
Okay.
we've changed our ordinance, or at least drafted this to be 35 rather than 25.
You mean 25 rather than 35?
Right now, it says you can't go more than 25 on a moped. The
Okay.
State law says you can go up to 35. So to be consistent with the state law, we changed to 35. For
But you-
mopeds, not for e-bikes.
Okay, we need to look at that because what I'm looking at right now, at least in what's on my desk, it says no person shall operate a moped at speed in excess of 25 miles per hour in section 19-139's paragraph A.
Okay, we discussed the 35. I guess it didn't make it.
I mean, I would prefer we leave it this way, to 25 miles an hour, at least on, I don't know if we can say on city streets or how that might be, how that might work.
Well, it would be, can go no faster than 35, but would still have to comply with speed limits on all streets in the city, right?
Correct.
Like, for instance, one of the great examples is Hampton Park. You know what the speed limit around Hampton Park is? I mean, 20.
Yeah.
Right? Most people who bike up there can bike faster than 20 and do. So, I mean, we just gotta make sure that people understand when you're on the road, whether you're on a bike, an e-bike, a moped, whatever it is, even if we let you go up to 35, you still have to comply with the speed limit on the road that you're on. And that is something that we need to be able to enforce. Right? I mean, as you know, my whole thing has been from the get-go, I think we need to have some kind of regulation on e-bikes. We also need to make sure it's enforceable and it's enforced, right? I mean, I was on Daniel Island today. It's a nightmare up there when it comes to e-bikes. It's a complete nightmare. And I was down by Smythe Park and I stopped by Daniel Island School. I didn't stalk it. I just went through the roundabout in front there. It is all e-bikes parked out in front. So that school stops at 8th grade. And those e-bikes, a lot of them, they weren't moving, but I can tell you when they do move, they're going faster than 25 miles an hour. They're moving. So, I mean, I think we've got to put something on the books that's enforceable and we can enforce. I mean, our police team is not gonna be able to look at a bike and figure out if it's 750 watts or more than a horsepower. They're not gonna be able to do that. But they know what a sidewalk is, and they know what a street is, and they know what a speed limit is. So I think, I mean, I've said place, not person. I think we gotta focus on place if we're gonna have something that's enforceable.
Well, I guess, so the mopeds themselves, I mean, if an e-moped or whatever, when I say moped, I think most people are like, think of these Vespas or whatever, little 2-cycle engine Vespas, but the electric mopeds, which is what a lot of them are, they don't have pedals on them. So is there a definition where we can say, look, if they don't have pedals, that's a moped? Are we clarifying that here? Or
Right,
can we
because
clarify that here?
the definition of
Because they can't look
e-bike-
and see, if it doesn't have pedals, then
I agree.
it's a moped.
Correct. In the definition, the state definition of an e-bike, it says each having fully operable pedals.
Okay.
Pedal assist.
And then I guess the only other comment I'd have is I'd like to see us increase the fine. I mean, $50, we're talking about having to have a police officer, stop a kid on one of these things, wait for the parents to show up, take them to family court. I mean, $50 is, that's not going to cover our costs at all in something like this. So I don't know if we can look at increasing the fine to something more reasonable, because this is going to require a significant amount of police resources to enforce. So I mean,
think
200 sounds reasonable to me.
I would even go higher, but a maximum penalty and allow for some discretion on the judge or arresting officer or something like that.
Yeah. But I mean, $50 is it's a slap on the wrist. Not even.
I agree with that 100%. I think it should be no greater than, and then have some discretion out there. All right, just on any other questions on the form? Okay, Councilman.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have my hand up.
Okay, Councilmember Scardon had her hand up first. I'm going to then call on you. Councilmember Scardon.
I do think it's worth some clarification in the definitions around sidewalk versus shared use path. I had quite a bit of outreach from folks around serious concerns around e-bikes that can't go over 20 miles an hour being banned from shared use paths. Shared use paths being the Ashley River pedestrian bridge, being the Ashley or West Ashley Greenway. So as we're thinking of, long bike rides that people are taking with their e-bike going no more than 20 miles an hour with their pedals, and they're going down the Greenway and they're going across our brand new bridge in the Ashley River and maybe along the Battery Extension and then up the low line. No,
no.
okay, just kidding. But I do have a little bit of concern just around that definition of sidewalk versus a shared use path.
And I don't have that definition right here in front of me, but it has to do with the width. So there is a definition for a shared use path.
Right. And what I'm saying is I would like us to consider making those two separate designations to say, yes, e-bikes are banned from sidewalks. No brainer in my mind. But when you have a shared use path in the West Ashley Greenway that's large and you have other bikes maybe going 25 miles an hour down there when they get up to speed and you have an e-bike going 19 miles an hour, why would we ban an e-bike from a shared use path like that?
I mean, I hear what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. But I think that then puts our police officers in this difficult position of, is it an e-bike? Is it a moped? I mean, are they going to be stopping people on the Greenway to check, see what it is?
Or how fast they're going.
I mean, I guess we can go back to the pedal test, right? If it doesn't have pedals, then it's a moped. If it does, then it's an e-bike. I don't know. I don't have a good answer. I think it puts the counterpoint to that is I think it puts our police officers in a difficult.
I think that the real issue there is the fact that e-bikes can go 40 miles an hour. And what we're trying to avoid is on the Greenway, for example, I think the speed limit is really the mechanism by which for enforcement, I would think, because I mean, you've got a walking path or a multi-use path and you've got, people taking a stroll and somebody buzzes by them at 40 miles an hour. I mean, that's
can't hear 'em
really
coming.
dangerous. So that would be a thought that we could be perhaps a little bit more lenient, but really enforce on the speed limit. And I know it's harder to do that, but I think there's probably some ways to do it. That's something we can talk.
Let's get to Councilmember Brady here.
Sorry,
I think
yeah.
we're going to go around again. Councilmember Brady,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, no, and thank you. And this discussion is exactly what I wanted to bring up. I have been getting tons of complaints on the Greenway about e-bikes zipping by people, and because they're electric, no one can hear them.
Yeah.
So my question is like, I mean, and we're limited by state law, and I get a bunch of that, but like, can we require a sound notification system? Like, if you're coming up behind someone, you have to sound something. Rather than asking the police to go out on the Greenway and, use radar to, the zip guy is going 32 instead of 30. Like, let's make common sense prevail here. Like, there are kids that go on the Greenway and they want to zip on their e-bikes that they got for Christmas, and like, and that's a thing that happens, and we all know it. So why can't we require some kind of common sense things instead of asking our police officers to go out on the Greenway and start doing speed enforcement? I mean, that sounds like an overregulation to me. It could just be me, but I think that's we got a lot going on in the city, and asking people to go do speed enforcement on the Greenway just seems like it seems like a lot.
So I'm definitely going to show my age here. I remember when we were kids, the way we'd make our bikes be able to be heard is we would take trading cards and clothespins and put them on the wheels, and they would hit the brakes and make all sorts of a racket of a noise. I mean, you make a good point, Councilmember Brady. I mean, there are some bicycles with wider tires that are quiet too, but speeding e-bikes that are morphing into mopeds on the Greenway are a bad idea. in
Oh,
my
I completely agree. I've gotten a lot of complaints, and I know some of the other council members that share my stretch of the Greenway. They're asking for more police enforcement, but I question whether having police out on the Greenway doing radar is the best use of our police force. And I wonder if there's not a civilian solution here that we could just we could ask that and do an ordinance that you come up and approach someone, there has to be an audible sound to let them know, and then there can be some enforcement, because I mean we assume 80% compliance and we enforce at the edges. I mean, that's how any law works. So that's all I'm asking. I just don't want to overburden our police force of having to go and start doing targeted attacks on the Greenway with radar.
I get that. I mean, the Greenway may be something we have to talk about separately. I mean, I'm thinking about multi-use paths around the city. Many of them are adjacent to roads that are speed limited at 35. So you would be good to go on those anyway. The Greenway is an exception. We have yet to have our bike ped bridge built yet. We'll have to think about that. So I don't know. We might have to think about the Greenway. Daniel Island. What do we do at Daniel Island?
On Daniel Island, we should not allow e-bikes on any shared use paths or sidewalks. I mean, the maximum speed limit on Daniel Island is 25 miles an hour on any road. The shared use paths, generally, you know, if you're driving anywhere near the shared use paths, it's 20 miles an hour. So I just don't see any reason why we would need to allow those on e-bikes or mopeds on, I don't know what the static is, but on any shared use path or sidewalk on Daniel Island.
So, all right. So we have the framework.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Sorry. I'm looking at Stephen. Go ahead.
Um,
Councilmember Scard. Sorry.
I do think it is worth looking at these individual major pedestrian bike thoroughfares like the Greenway, like the Ashley River pedestrian bridge, the Maryville Bikeway, seeing if there is a different way to think about allowing a 60-year-old who just got their e-bike, who's out for a 20-mile ride, just to ensure that people who do use these for recreation on these specific multi-use paths have that option, and aren't unduly punished for, 14-year-olds going crazy. So if there is a way to look at bike paths, multi-use paths across the city, like the Greenway, like the Ash River pedestrian bridge, and have a separate, set of guidelines for that, I think it would be helpful.
I think that's going to be problematic, but this is a deliberative body and we'll sort of work through that. I think on Daniel Island, you're going to get some real resistance on that. And you got two representatives in Daniel Island here that making exceptions on Daniel Island would be a problem up there. The Greenway, I mean, the Greenway's had some challenges. Again, I'm going to show my age. When I first got elected, that was part of my jurisdiction. It was dirt. And there was a huge backlash when we said we're going to pave the first, I don't even remember, 3 or 4 miles of it, right? And everyone's like, oh, no, the worst thing you ever did. Don't ever do it. Now it's the best thing we ever did. But if you go out there, my mom lived right on the Greenway for a long time before she passed, and there's some abusive behavior out there. Now, do we legislate because of a couple knuckleheads? No, but we just got to be careful about making certain exceptions if we're going to say that we have a challenge with e-bikes, particularly in being dangerous in shared use situations. And I think that's where this has all come from. So before we tackle that hard question, I think there's one other thing we need to talk about, and I don't see the police chief here, but there has been some suggestion, and maybe Ms. Copeland or the mayor would like to jump in here, that whatever we adopt and put on the books, and I think we got to do something, I mean, we got to put something on there, that we have an education period and we specifically cooperate with and co-opt education with both the Berkeley County and Charleston County school districts, right? I mean, I think I don't think we can go out and have an educational process until we know what we're going to put on the books, right? So they're out there talking about what's coming, not we're still thinking about it. So I think it's incumbent on this committee and then city council in some short order to come up with an ordinance that we agree with. And if the sticking point is the Greenway, I don't think we should even be talking about the bridge yet. I mean, it's not built. Let's sort of see how we do with e-bikes in the meantime. Don't look at me like that. Um, we're just not there yet. And this is gonna, I mean, I think this is gonna take some tweaking, but we also need to hear from the, I guess, Steve, you're the guy, about enforcement. I mean, whatever we put on the books, are we going to enforce it?
In terms of the school district, we already have reached out to them and we've had a couple phone conversations with them. So that's in the works. It'd be an educational piece to that, informing the parents what is and is not an e-bike and making sure that, you know, that their kids aren't riding the mopeds as opposed to the e-bikes. And I do believe we have DC Weiss on.
Oh, good.
So
If I may, before we jump into enforcement, I think with regards to the communication side of this, particularly with the school board, but really the general public as well, because I do think there's going to be a really important educational component of this. If I may, I think from my perspective, I would say that we let it be known when we're coming up for a first reading. So we push it out there, have a first reading. Maybe there are a few tweaks on the floor based on initial feedback. But then between first and second reading, we have a broader outreach, particularly with the school board, but boards, so that any amendments that can be made versus, you know, us just saying this is what we're doing and we're educating you. It's always better to allow people to have their input. And I think we can do that in a timely manner with some parameters on it so that we're not having this thing draw out for months on end, because I do think, I appreciate the urgency.
No, I agree with that. I mean, we're going to go through the process. It's going to go through city council. We'll have 3 readings of it. We'll have public comment, and then we'll have an education period, because I do think we should build in a time period between whatever we adopt and actual enforcement of education as well. So take public comment on the front end, whatever we put in place, have an education period, and then get into enforcement. But if we're getting into enforcement, it's got to be enforceable. Yes, sir. Councilmember Gregg.
All right, thanks. Well, that all being said, I'd like to move for adoption or approval of this to send to the full council at our next meeting.
I have a question.
Second.
We got a second from Councilmember Brady. I would like to ask a question about that, because one of the things that's in here is helmets. If we're going to require helmets on e-bikes, we're going to have to require helmets on bikes. And I think you're really going to get into a challenge of enforcement. Let me just say up front, when you ride a bike, an e-bike, wear a helmet. But I don't know that we're going to be able to put that in an ordinance and enforce it. And what do you do with things like bike share? Bike sharing is good. Helmet sharing is bad. So you're gonna have to bring, I mean, I just think with helmets, we got a challenge. So is your motion to include helmets in there or not?
It's in the ordinances, no person under the age of 21 shall operate or ride a e-bike unless he wears a protective helmet. So yes, as it's drafted, I'd like to.
Well, if our definition of e-bikes is something that includes pedals, you're gonna have a challenge with enforcement, but okay, motion is for all of it. So, and there's been a second. Any discussion?
Yeah.
I would say that I intend on voting for it, but I agree with you, Councilman Seekins. I do think we want to try and give as much clarity as possible, and things like helmets. Well, again, I agree, helmets should be worn. To mandate that in that format could prove problematic on the larger effort. So that would be my only reservation, and may look to do an amendment on that front.
So no, so you'd be saying no helmets on e-bikes or bikes would be required, but you'd still have the helmet requirement for mopeds within the way the ordinance is currently written. Is that?
Yeah, I need to study a little bit more, but again, that's just one nuance that I respect where you're coming from. Probably needs to be fleshed out a little bit more, but in the interest of moving it to council and larger discussion, I'll vote for it, but want to have that issue addressed before it is voted on by council.
Can I?
Yep.
So a couple of thoughts here. One, on the helmet side of things, if one of our main goals of this is to educate parents and teachers on regulations, I think one of the greatest tools you have as a parent to get your child to wear a life jacket, to wear a helmet, is saying it is the law. So I do think that if we're worried about the enforcement of helmets, thinking of this from a parent's perspective and understanding parents and educators what's on the books and what we need to be telling our kids to do, it's actually a very, very helpful tool. I would be fine with lowering the age to 18 or 16. But again, if we have a huge educational component piece of this, for me to be able to tell my kids, you have to wear a helmet, it's the law, makes my job as a parent a lot easier to keep my kids safe. I do have a couple reservations about approving the language as is. I think there were a couple of typos in here. And so I would love to see updated language before we send it to council. I think figuring out the helmet piece, I think figuring out greenway shared use piece or shared use path piece would be my preference before we move this forward to full council.
Still modify it after first reading.
We can modify it even before it gets there,
Yeah,
probably.
Still got a month between sending it to council and. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I mean, we have a month we can, between now and when we would have the first reading, that we can make modifications. But if we wait, then it's gonna be 2 more months before this gets brought back to the floor. So I understand, but, where you're coming from on that. I'd just like to see us go ahead and move it to first reading in a month from now, and we can make tweaks between now and then, as well as between first reading and second and third readings.
Councilmember Brady, you've got your hand up. We see it. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I would also add that part of our incumbent obligation is around the helmets. There's a societal cost that comes with this as well, right? So if we don't require this, more people will show up in the ER, more people will have traumatic brain injuries, some that can't pay for it, right? And that actually ends up costing the city more when our insurance rates go up. And so it might be just a very small thing that we're doing by requiring it, but there's a societal cost to be borne as well, and I think we have to think about that.
It's a very, very good argument, and it's one that's been made about helmets across the country for time immemorial, and it's something we'll have to debate. I just think from an enforcement standpoint, we're going to put ourselves in a tough position. Anyway, we've got a motion on the floor, and we do have a second to move this forward as is presented to City Council, which will be reported out, not the next meeting, but the meeting after. Any further discussion?
Could I just ask a clarification? So if we do vote today, yes, what the next step will be is that council, this will be on the council agenda in a month. But before then, we will have the opportunity to make amendments to the language. So when this comes before council in a month, the language itself could look different and we could address some of these things that we've talked about today.
What we will do is we will take what's been before us, because that's what the motion is, and anybody who wants to make an insert, we'll put it in as a suggested add-on when it gets to council, and we'll debate everything that's in there.
Okay.
Okay, including fixing the typos, because there's some in there, which we'll do. That wasn't a dig, that's is what it is. And I would ask that, I don't know if Chief Weiss is on there and has any comment, but I think we're in a good place for now, but we're going to have to hear from him and his team about enforcement once we figure out what this is going to look like, and the education piece. Because I think one of the things I would like to build into this ordinance when it comes to city council is a period of education. Okay. So we can work on that between now. Chief, I know you're on there and you came on for this. Is there any comment you'd like to make now, or would you like to wait until we sort of sort this out a little bit more?
No, so we met with the school board today, and that was one of the first things we hashed out was the education piece. Just like with the curfew ordinance on King Street, we met with all the school districts to make sure that there would be a very large education piece, and working with them to help us get that out to people. And I agree completely. We're gonna have to have that in place before the enforcement goes into effect. And I think there's also a lot of things that we're trying to flush out. I'll hold everybody up, but a lot of what we're seeing out here is not the e-bike issue. We're also seeing a lot of what are considered mopeds and motorcycles with 12-year-olds that can do 30, 40, 50 miles an hour. And those are the little dirt bike looking ones and things. And then you even have the small scooters that can't go as fast, and where are they going to fall? So I think there is a lot to sort of flush out, and we'll work on our end. We're getting ready to push an education piece, even for our officers, to actually begin to tackle and educate through the schools those other vehicles that are outside of the e-bikes. And then when this ordinance gets ready, we'll add it in there. Very similar to what we had to do with golf carts not that long ago across the city when we had 14, 15-year-old kids riding them. So.
Okay, thank you for being here. I appreciate that. All right, any other comments, questions? If not, I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor of moving this forward to city council, say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. We will work through this a little bit between now and then as well, okay? Thank you all. Good, healthy debate. Thank you, team, Steve, and most importantly, for all your hard work on this. More to come. All right. All right, I think we've got one more thing, a request. I gotta laugh about this one a little bit. Request for approval of certificate of public convenience and necessity for a company called All About to Pull Up Taxi Service. Mr. Mathis, anything?
Yes, sir. This has been reviewed by our legal staff as well as our traffic and transportation staff, and we recommend for approval.
All right, can I get a motion?
Move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. If there's nothing else to come before this committee, by 2 minutes, we've made it within our time frame. We are adjourned.
Now we gotta get a picture.
Oh,
Hey.
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna let the cat out of the bag on our little inside joke, but it did make me laugh.